On a maritime chart dated 1907, the North Atlantic stretches wide and dark between the ports of Southampton and New York. Dotted lines mark the great shipping lanes, and small symbols indicate the positions of vessels crossing through the night. Tonight, you find yourself aboard one of those vessels, a grand ocean liner, somewhere in the middle of the sea. It is just past midnight. The engines thrum far below your feet, a deep and constant rhythm. The corridors are hushed, lit by soft electric lamps and the occasional flicker of candle light. Most passengers have retired to their cabins, and the ship moves steadily through calm, black waters. By minute 2, you will be standing at a porthole, watching the dark sea slide past. By minute 4, you will hear the distant chime of the ship's bell marking the hour. By minute 6, you will be walking the empty promenade deck, wrapped in the cool salt air. There is nothing to fear here. No storms, no emergencies, only the peaceful passage of a great ship through a calm night. If you're just settling in, this is a calm night aboard a 1900s ocean liner, and there is nothing you need to do but listen. You wake slowly, as if rising from deep water. For a moment, you are not certain where you are. The darkness is unfamiliar, the sound strange and distant. But then you feel it, the gentle, rhythmic sway beneath you, the soft creak of wood adjusting to the motion, and the distant, constant hum of engines far below. You are aboard a ship, an ocean liner crossing the Atlantic in the quiet hours of the night, somewhere between the world you left behind and the world that awaits. Your eyes adjust gradually to the darkness of the cabin. The space is small but comfortable, appointed in the style of the Edwardian era with careful attention to every detail. The berth beneath you is narrow but surprisingly soft, the linens crisp and white, tucked neatly around a thin but adequate mattress that has been fitted precisely to the frame. A woolen blanket lies folded at your feet, ready to provide additional warmth should you need it, and a single pillow supports your head, covered in a smooth cotton case that carries the faint scent of fresh laundering. The sheets smell faintly of starch and lavender, a scent that speaks of careful attention and the pride that the ship's laundry staff takes in their work. Each morning, stewards collect the linens, and each evening they return them fresh and pressed, maintaining standards that would satisfy the most demanding household. Even here, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, the comforts of civilization are maintained with remarkable consistency. Beside the berth, a small nightstand holds a brass lamp, its flame turned low but still burning with a steady, golden light. The lamp is a marvel of practical design, fitted with a weighted base and a protective glass chimney that prevents the flame from being extinguished by the motion of the ship. The light it casts is warm and welcoming, flickering gently with the slight movements of the vessel, sending dancing shadows across the polished wood paneling of the walls. The cabin walls gleam faintly in the lamplight, their grain rich and dark, mahogany or walnut perhaps, selected for both beauty and durability. The craftsmanship is evident in every joint and seam, the woodwork fitted together with a precision that speaks of skilled hands and careful attention. The panels are secured with brass screws, their heads polished to match the other fittings, and the seams between them are tight enough to prevent any drafts from penetrating the space. Across the cabin, perhaps 6 or 7 feet from where you lie, a porthole offers a view of the night beyond. The glass is thick and curved, set into a heavy brass frame that has been polished to a soft, warm shine. The porthole can be opened in fair weather to admit fresh air, but tonight it is secured against the darkness outside, its brass dogs turned tight against the frame. Through the thick glass, you can see nothing but darkness. The black Atlantic, stretching endlessly in every direction, unmarked by any light or landmark. Occasionally, a faint glimmer of moonlight catches the crest of a wave, a brief flash of silver that appears and vanishes almost before you can register it. But for the most part, the sea and the sky blend together into a single, unbroken expanse of darkness, an infinity of black that would be terrifying if not for the solid comfort of the ship around you. The porthole is your window to this vast emptiness, and yet it also serves as a reminder of how well protected you are, how thoroughly the vessel separates you from the wilderness of the open ocean. The sound of the engines is ever present, a low, steady pulse that seems to come from everywhere at once. It is not loud. You could easily sleep through it, and indeed, you have been sleeping. But it is constant, a reassuring rhythm that underlies every other sound on the ship. You can feel it in the soles of your feet when you stand, in the vibration of the berth beneath you as you lie, in the faint tremor of the lamp on the nightstand. It is the heartbeat of the vessel, the proof of life and motion, carrying you forward through the night at a steady pace of perhaps 18 or 20 knots. The engines are located far below, in the depths of the ship where the stokers feed the furnaces and the engineers tend the great reciprocating machines or turbines that drive the propellers. From here, in the passenger accommodations, you experience only the result of their labor, the constant, comforting vibration that tells you the ship is moving, that progress is being made, that each passing hour brings you closer to your destination. You sit up slowly, carefully, letting your feet find the floor beside the berth. The carpet is soft beneath your toes, a deep burgundy or navy. It is difficult to tell the precise color in the low lamplight. The carpet is thick and well padded, designed to muffle footsteps and provide comfort underfoot, and it extends wall to wall across the cabin floor, secured at the edges with brass strips that hold it firmly in place. The air in the cabin is cool but not cold, a comfortable temperature maintained by the ship's heating system and the insulation of the hull. You can detect the faint salt tang of the sea, carried through the ventilation system from the decks above, mixed with the smell of polished brass and clean linen, and the slight mustiness of wood that has spent years at sea. A small radiator beneath the porthole hisses softly, providing just enough warmth to keep the chill at bay. Its pipes connected to the ship's steam system, drawing heat from the same boilers that power the engines. On a hook beside the door hangs your dressing gown, a thick robe of dark wool or velvet that you brought from home for exactly these occasions. You reach for it, slipping it over your shoulders and tying the sash loosely at your waist. The fabric is heavy and warm, comforting against your skin, a familiar garment in an unfamiliar place. Beside the door, a pair of slippers waits, soft leather, lined with felt or fleece, and you slide your feet into them, completing your transformation from sleeper to nighttime wanderer. The cabin, though small by the standards of a house or hotel, contains everything you need for the crossing. A washstand stands in one corner, its marble top supporting a porcelain basin decorated with a delicate blue pattern, and a matching pitcher filled with fresh water that a steward replaced just before you retired for the evening. A mirror hangs above the washstand, its frame ornate and gilded, sized to allow you to see your face and adjust your appearance. The mirror reflects the lamplight, doubling the illumination in the room and making the space feel larger than it is. A small writing desk occupies the opposite corner, positioned beneath a second lamp that can be lit when you wish to correspond with friends or family at home. The desk is stocked with stationery bearing the ship's crest, cream-colored envelopes, sheets of fine notepaper with the company's logo embossed at the top, and a fountain pen resting in its holder beside a brass inkwell. A straight-backed chair is tucked beneath the desk, its seat padded with the same fabric as the carpet, and a blotter protects the polished wood surface from any accidental spills of ink. Above the desk, a framed print depicts a pastoral scene, rolling hills, a meandering river, a distant church spire rising above a village of small cottages. It is the kind of image meant to soothe, to remind passengers of the land they have left behind and the land that awaits them at journey's end. The print is secured to the wall with small brass brackets, preventing it from swinging with the motion of the ship, and its colors are soft and calming, chosen specifically to create an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. You move to the porthole and press your palm against the cool glass. The vibration of the engines is stronger here, transmitted through the hull and the brass frame, a physical reminder of the power that drives the ship forward. Outside, the darkness is absolute, complete, almost tangible. No lights, no stars visible through this particular angle, just the endless black of the open ocean, the vast Atlantic that separates continents and swallows ships and has been crossed by voyagers for centuries. You imagine the water beneath you, hundreds of fathoms deep, cold and dark, and utterly indifferent to the vessel passing over its surface. Down there in the lightless depths, creatures move that have never seen the sun, fish and invertebrates adapted to pressures that would crush a human body in an instant. The ocean floor lies miles below, covered with sediment and the remains of countless organisms, a world as alien and unexplored as any distant planet. And yet, standing here in your warm cabin, with the lamp burning and the engines humming and the solid deck beneath your feet, you do not feel small or afraid. The ship is a triumph of human engineering, a vessel designed specifically to cross this wilderness in safety and comfort. Officers stand watch on the bridge above, their eyes on the horizon, their hands ready at the wheel. Engineers tend the machinery below, ensuring that the engines run smoothly and the ship maintains its course. The vessel carries you forward with a confidence that comes from decades of experience, from lessons learned and improvements made, from the collective knowledge of generations of seafarers. You turn away from the porthole and look around the cabin once more, taking in the details that make this small space your home for the duration of the crossing. The lamp still burns on the nightstand, its flame steady and warm, a point of light in the surrounding darkness. The berth is rumpled where you left it, the pillow still bearing the impression of your head, the blanket pushed aside when you rose. The air is still and quiet, filled only with the hum of the engines and the faint creak of the ship's timbers as they adjust to the constant motion. You are not tired exactly, or perhaps you are, but a different kind of tired, a peaceful weariness that does not demand immediate sleep. The ship rocks gently, a slow and soothing motion that reminds you of a cradle or a hammock, a rhythm as old as humanity's relationship with the sea. You could lie back down, close your eyes, and let that rhythm carry you back to the dreams you left behind. Or you could step outside into the corridor and explore the quiet spaces of the ship while the rest of the world slumbers. The choice is yours, and there is no hurry to make it. The night is long, the ship is steady, and wherever you go, the vessel will carry you safely through until morning. As you lie in your berth, feeling the gentle sway of the ship, you can let your own body settle into the same slow rhythm. You open the cabin door quietly and step into the corridor beyond. The passage stretches before you in both directions, a long ribbon of soft light and polished wood that curves gently with the contour of the ship's hull. The corridor is wider than you might expect, designed to allow passengers to pass one another comfortably even when carrying luggage or wearing the voluminous clothing fashionable in this era. The ceiling is perhaps 8 feet above, high enough to feel spacious, but not so high as to waste precious space on a vessel where every cubic foot must be carefully planned. The floor beneath your feet is covered with a thick carpet, deep red or burgundy, patterned with a subtle geometric design that runs the length of the passage. The carpet muffles your footsteps completely, absorbing the sound of your slippers against the deck, so that you move in near-perfect silence. Only the faint rustle of your dressing gown and the distant hum of the engines accompany your progress, creating an atmosphere of hushed intimacy that feels almost sacred. Electric lamps are mounted at regular intervals along the walls, set into brass sconces that have been polished to a warm golden shine. The lamps are turned low at this hour, providing just enough illumination to navigate safely without disturbing the passengers who sleep behind the closed cabin doors. The light they cast is soft and warm, creating pools of amber that overlap and merge, so that the corridor never falls into complete darkness but maintains a gentle, even glow throughout its length. The walls are paneled in the same dark wood as your cabin, mahogany, you think, or perhaps teak or walnut. The panels are fitted together with the same careful craftsmanship you noticed in your room, the joints tight and true, the grain of the wood selected and matched so that each panel complements its neighbors. The wood has been polished until it gleams, reflecting the lamplight in soft highlights that move and shift as you walk past. The cabin doors line both sides of the corridor, spaced at regular intervals, each one identical to the next. The doors are made of the same dark wood as the walls, fitted with brass handles and hinges that have been polished to match the lamp sconces. Small brass plates indicate the cabin numbers: 304, 306, 308, and small slots allow the insertion of cards that passengers can use to indicate whether they wish to be disturbed. All of the doors are closed, and no light escapes from beneath them. The passengers who occupy these cabins are asleep, their breathing slow and steady, their dreams undisturbed by the gentle motion of the ship. You are the only one awake in this section of the vessel, a solitary wanderer in a world of sleepers, and there is something both peaceful and slightly eerie about the sensation. The corridor curves gently as you walk, following the shape of the ship's superstructure. You cannot see more than 30 or 40 feet ahead, the passage bending just enough to create the impression of endless progression. It is like walking through a tunnel, a liminal space that connects the private world of your cabin with the public spaces of the ship beyond. Each step takes you further from your room and closer to wherever you choose to go. The air in the corridor is cool and still, carrying the same mix of scents you detected in your cabin: polished brass, clean linen, the faint salt tang of the sea. But there are other notes here as well, traces of the passengers who walked this way earlier in the evening. A hint of perfume, perhaps, or the lingering smell of cigar smoke from a gentleman returning to his room. These scents are faint and fleeting, ghosts of presence that have almost but not quite dissipated in the quiet hours. At intervals along the corridor, small tables stand against the walls between the cabin doors. These tables are made of the same dark wood as the paneling, their surfaces polished to a high shine, and they hold vases of fresh flowers: roses, lilies, carnations, their petals soft and colorful against the dark background. The flowers are real, replaced daily by the ship's florists, and they fill the corridor with a gentle fragrance that adds to the sense of comfort and care. Beside each vase, a small card indicates the deck and section, helping passengers navigate the maze of identical-looking passages. The ship is large, with multiple decks and hundreds of cabins, and even experienced travelers can become disoriented in the labyrinth of corridors. The cards provide reassurance, small anchors of certainty in a space that might otherwise feel endless and confusing. You pass a steward's station, a small alcove set into the wall where a uniformed attendant would stand during the day and evening hours. The station is equipped with a brass call button connected to a system of bells that can summon help from anywhere in the section, a small counter for holding trays or packages, and a ledger for recording requests and deliveries. Now, in the quiet of the night, the station is unoccupied, the counter empty, the ledger closed. A night steward patrols these corridors, making regular rounds to ensure that all is well. But you have not yet encountered him, and the passage remains empty save for yourself. The solitude is comfortable rather than lonely, a gift of space and silence that the daytime rarely offers. During waking hours, these corridors bustle with activity, passengers coming and going, stewards delivering messages and meals, children running ahead of their parents, couples strolling arm in arm. Now all of that activity has paused, suspended until morning, and the corridor belongs to you alone. Further along, you come to a porthole set into the outer wall of the corridor, one of several that admit natural light during the day. You pause and look through the thick glass, pressing your face close to see what lies beyond. The darkness is complete. No horizon line, no stars visible from this angle, just the faint shimmer of water catching the reflected light from the ship's own lamps. The sea is calm tonight, the surface smooth, and the ship moves through it without effort, leaving only the gentlest wake behind. You press your hand against the glass, feeling the cool surface and the faint vibration of the engines transmitted through the hull. The porthole is your connection to the world outside, a reminder that beyond this corridor, beyond this ship, an entire ocean stretches in every direction. Thousands of miles of water separate you from land, from cities, from everything familiar and solid. And yet, the corridor around you is warm and bright, a cocoon of civilization in the midst of the wilderness, carrying you safely through the night. The carpet continues beneath your feet, soft and silent as you resume your walk. The lamps glow steadily, the wood panels gleam, the cabin doors remain closed. The corridor seems to extend forever, curving gently out of sight, promising endless exploration. But you know that it does not. Somewhere ahead, it opens into a larger space, a stairway or a lounge or a promenade, and the character of the ship will change. For now, though, you are content to walk slowly, to let each step carry you a little further from your cabin and a little deeper into the quiet heart of the night. The engines hum, the ship sways, and the corridor unfolds before you, One polished panel, one brass lamp, one closed door at a time. You pass a small table with a lamp of its own, its light casting a warm circle on the wall above. A mirror hangs there, framed in gilt, reflecting your image as you pass. A figure in a dressing gown and slippers, moving through the amber light like a ghost or a dream. You pause for a moment, looking at your reflection, and the reflection looks back, equally curious, equally at peace. The silence is profound but not oppressive. It is the silence of rest, of trust, of a vessel moving through the night with hundreds of souls aboard, all of them safe, all of them carried forward toward morning. You are part of that community of sleepers, even though you are awake, and the ship holds you all together, bound by the wooden walls and the steel hull and the endless rhythm of the engines. You continue walking, and the corridor continues with you, patient and unchanging, ready to deliver you wherever you wish to go. Each step along the quiet corridor can become a step deeper into your own rest. The corridor ends at a grand staircase, and you pause at the threshold looking up. The staircase rises before you in a graceful sweep, its steps wide and shallow, designed to accommodate the long skirts and formal attire of the era. During the day and evening, this is one of the most photographed spaces on the ship, a place where passengers gather to see and be seen, to make entrances and exits, to demonstrate their wealth and taste through the elegance of their clothing and the confidence of their bearing. Now, in the quiet of the night, you have it to yourself. The steps are carpeted in the same deep red as the corridors, the fabric thick and plush beneath your feet, secured to each tread with brass rods that gleam in the lamplight. The carpet absorbs sound completely, so that your ascent is silent, almost dreamlike, each step carrying you higher without any audible mark of your passage. The banisters are carved from rich, dark wood, mahogany or oak, worked into elaborate patterns that demonstrate the skill of the craftsmen who built the ship. The spindles are turned in an ornate design, each one identical to the next, creating a visual rhythm that guides the eye upward. The newel posts at each landing are particularly impressive, carved with scrollwork and topped with brass finials that have been polished to a warm golden shine. As you climb, the staircase opens up around you, revealing its full grandeur. The walls are paneled in the same dark wood as the corridors, but here the panels are larger, more elaborate, fitted with decorative moldings and carved details that catch and hold the light. Paintings hang at intervals, landscapes and seascapes and portraits, their frames gilded and ornate, their subjects gazing out with the calm assurance of another age. Above you, a dome of glass crowns the staircase, though at this hour it shows only darkness. No moon visible, no stars, just the faint suggestion of the night sky beyond. In the daytime, the dome must be magnificent, admitting natural light that filters down through the stairwell, illuminating the carved wood and polished brass in a wash of color. The glass is fitted with panels of different hues, reds and blues and golds, that create patterns of light and shadow as the sun moves across the sky. Now it is a silent presence overhead, a promise of beauty waiting for the dawn. The lamps that light the staircase are more elaborate than those in the corridors. They hang from chains or brackets, their glass shades etched with patterns that diffuse the light, creating a soft, even glow that flatters the faces of those who pass beneath them. Some are electric, the newest technology. Others burn gas or oil, maintained by the ship's crew in a tradition that stretches back to the earliest days of ocean travel. Together, they provide a warm illumination that makes the staircase feel intimate and welcoming, despite its grand scale. You pause on a landing halfway up, turning to look back down the stairs. The lower deck is hidden from view, swallowed by the curve of the staircase, the last few steps disappearing around the bend. The corridor you left behind is invisible now, as if it belongs to a different world, a different ship. Ahead, another flight rises toward the upper decks, where the public rooms and promenades await, but from here you can see only the next few steps, the next carved baluster, the next pool of lamplight. The air on the staircase is slightly warmer than in the corridors, rising from the heart of the ship, carrying the heat of the engines and the bodies of the passengers who have recently climbed these steps. You can smell the faint scent of beeswax and lemon oil, the polishes used to keep the wood gleaming, mixed with the lingering traces of perfume and tobacco from the evening's social activities. These scents are subtle, almost subliminal, creating an atmosphere of elegance and care without demanding conscious attention. You run your hand along the banister as you continue to climb, feeling the smooth, warm wood beneath your palm. The surface has been worn by thousands of hands before yours, passengers from dozens of crossings, each one leaving some invisible trace of their passage. The wood is soft now, polished by contact as much as by the efforts of the cleaning staff, and it fits your hand perfectly, as if shaped specifically for this purpose. The staircase is a space of transition, a connection between the lower decks, where the cabins are located, and the upper decks, where passengers spend their waking hours. It marks the boundary between private and public, between sleep and activity, between the intimate world of the cabin and the communal world of the lounges and dining rooms. To climb, it is to make a choice, to leave the solitude of your room and enter the social life of the ship. But now, in the quiet of the night, that distinction has lost its meaning. The public rooms above are as empty and silent as the corridors below, and the staircase belongs to no one and everyone, a neutral space suspended between worlds. You can climb or descend, pause or continue, without consideration of who might be watching or what impression you might make. At the top of the stairs, you emerge into a foyer, a small but elegant space that serves as a crossroads between the public rooms. The floor here is marble, or perhaps a very fine tile, polished to a high shine that reflects the lamplight like water. A large mirror hangs on one wall, its frame gilded and ornate, reflecting the space and making it seem larger than it is. The mirror shows you as you are, a figure in a dressing gown and slippers, hair slightly disheveled, eyes still soft with recent sleep, and you smile at the incongruity of your appearance in this formal setting. Doors lead off in several directions, to the lounge, the smoking room, the dining saloon. Each door is closed but not locked, and the faint glow of lamplight shows beneath some of them, indicating that the public rooms are not entirely dark. The ship's crew maintains a minimal level of illumination throughout the night, for safety and for the comfort of any passengers who might, like you, find themselves wakeful in the small hours. In the center of the foyer, a small table holds a vase of fresh flowers, white roses, this time, their petals soft and pale in the low light. A clock on the wall shows the time. Nearly 1 in the morning, the ship's hour matching the hour at sea, adjusted daily as the vessel moves westward across the Atlantic. The clock's face is ornate, its hands moving slowly around the dial, marking time with a soft tick that is barely audible above the hum of the engines. You stand in the foyer for a moment, taking in the silence and the space. The public rooms beyond are waiting for you, their furnishings arranged, their lamps burning low, their emptiness a kind of invitation. You have the ship to yourself, or very nearly so, and the night stretches ahead with hours still to explore. The engines hum, the lamps glow, and the grand staircase rises and falls behind you, connecting the worlds you have left and the worlds you have yet to discover. As you pause on the staircase, the gentle light and the distant engine hum remind you that all is well. You push open one of the doors and step into the first-class lounge. The room is large, much larger than it appeared from the foyer, stretching perhaps 60 or 70 feet from one end to the other. During the day and evening, this is the social center of the first-class section, a place where passengers gather to read, to talk, to take tea or coffee, to listen to music, to see and be seen by their fellow travelers. Now, in the quiet hours after midnight, it is transformed into something else entirely. A sanctuary of stillness, empty of people but full of presence, the furniture and fixtures waiting patiently for the morning. The ceiling is high, perhaps 12 or 14 feet, supported by columns wrapped in carved wood or decorated with gilt. The height creates a sense of grandeur that the corridor and even the staircase lacked, a feeling of space and air that allows the room to breathe. Crystal chandeliers hang from the ceiling, their pendants dark at this hour, but even unlit, they catch and reflect the lamplight from below, scattering tiny points of brightness across the walls and ceiling. The furnishings are arranged in small groupings throughout the room, creating intimate conversation areas within the larger space. Velvet armchairs in deep reds and golds are positioned around small tables topped with polished wood or marble. Sofas with curved backs and carved wooden legs face one another across Persian rugs. Potted palms and ferns stand in corners and against walls, their green fronds reaching toward the light, bringing a touch of nature into the artificial environment of the ship. You walk slowly through the room, your slippers silent on the thick carpet that covers the floor. The carpet here is even more luxurious than in the corridors. It's piled deep and soft, its pattern intricate and colorful. It muffles every sound, so that the room is utterly quiet save for the ever-present hum of the engines and the faint creak of the ship's structure as it moves through the water. The lamps are turned low, casting soft pools of light that leave much of the room in gentle shadow. The effect is intimate rather than gloomy, creating an atmosphere of warmth and comfort that invites relaxation. You can imagine how the room must look in the evening, when all the lamps are lit and passengers fill the chairs and sofas, when conversation and music fill the air and the chandeliers sparkle overhead. But there is a different kind of beauty in the emptiness, a quiet dignity that the crowded room cannot possess. The walls are paneled in a lighter wood than the corridors, perhaps oak or beech, carved with neoclassical motifs, urns and swags, laurel wreaths and acanthus leaves. The panels extend from floor to ceiling, interrupted only by windows along one wall, their curtains drawn against the darkness outside. During the day, these windows admit natural light. Now they are blank rectangles of heavy fabric, brocade or damask in a pattern that complements the upholstery of the furniture. In one corner of the room, a grand piano stands with its lid closed, covered with a silk shawl embroidered with flowers and birds. The shawl is a touch of color against the dark wood of the instrument, its threads catching the lamplight and gleaming softly. The piano's keys are hidden beneath the lid, but you can imagine the music that fills this space during the day. Waltzes and popular songs, classical pieces and ragtime, played by the ship's musician or by talented passengers who volunteer to entertain their fellow travelers. The piano is a Steinway. You notice from the name inscribed on the fallboard, one of the finest instruments in the world. Its presence speaks to the ship's commitment to quality in every detail, the determination to provide passengers with the best that money can buy. Even the piano on an ocean liner must be a Steinway, must be tuned regularly despite the challenges of the maritime environment, must be ready at a moment's notice to produce music worthy of the setting. Potted palms stand at intervals around the room, their fronds reaching toward the ceiling, creating pockets of greenery that soften the formality of the space. The palms are real, not artificial, and they are tended by a member of the ship's crew who waters them daily and trims away any yellowing leaves. They are a fashion of the era, a way of bringing the natural world into spaces that are otherwise entirely manufactured, and their presence adds life and movement to the stillness of the room. You sink into one of the velvet armchairs, feeling the deep cushions yield beneath your weight. The chair is extraordinarily comfortable, designed for hours of sitting, its back at exactly the right angle to support your spine, its arms at the perfect height to rest your elbows. You can imagine sitting here in the daytime, a book in your lap, a cup of tea on the small table beside you, the murmur of conversation providing a gentle background as you read. The velvet is soft against your dressing gown, smooth and slightly cool, a luxurious fabric that speaks of expense and care. You run your fingers along the arm of the chair, feeling the texture of the nap, the slight compression as you press down and release. The fabric has been chosen not only for its appearance, but for its durability, its ability to withstand years of use without showing wear, its resistance to the salt air and humidity of the maritime environment. A small table stands beside your chair, its surface bare except for an ashtray and a small vase holding a single flower, a red rose, its petals still fresh, its scent faint but detectable. The table is made of dark wood with a marble top, its legs carved in the same neoclassical style as the wall panels. Beneath the table, a brass spittoon is discreetly positioned, a concession to the habits of the era that seems slightly jarring in this otherwise refined setting. You lean back in the chair and close your eyes for a moment, allowing the silence to wash over you. The velvet is soft against your cheek, and the warmth of the room wraps around you like a blanket. The engines hum, the ship sways gently, and you feel yourself beginning to drift, not quite into sleep, but into a state of deep relaxation, a peacefulness that asks nothing of you but to be present. The clock on the mantelpiece ticks softly, marking time with a gentle rhythm that complements the rhythm of the engines. The fire in the hearth. There is a fireplace, you notice now, though it is not lit at this hour, is cold and dark. But even so, it suggests warmth, the promise of flames and the crackle of burning wood. The fireplace is surrounded by a carved marble mantel, its surface decorated with urns and swags that echo the motifs on the walls. You open your eyes and look around the room once more, taking in the details that you missed on first entering. There are paintings on the walls, landscapes mostly, depicting pastoral scenes and maritime views, ships under sail and rolling green hills. The paintings are framed in gilt, their surfaces darkened with age and the patina of smoke from thousands of cigars. They are not masterpieces, but they are competent and pleasing, selected to create an atmosphere of culture and refinement. A writing desk stands near one of the windows, stocked with stationery and pens, a lamp positioned to provide good light for correspondence. The desk is made of the same dark wood as the tables, its surface covered with green leather that has been tooled with gold. A blotter protects the leather from ink stains, and a small rack holds envelopes and note paper. The chairs around the desk are straight-backed and functional, designed for work rather than relaxation. Bookshelves line one section of the wall, filled with volumes that passengers can borrow and return during the crossing. The books are an eclectic collection: novels by popular authors of the day, travel guides to the destinations the ship serves, histories and biographies, bound volumes of magazines, reference works and encyclopedias. Many of them show signs of use, their spines cracked, their pages dog-eared, evidence of the hours that passengers have spent reading in this very room. You rise from the armchair and walk to the bookshelf, running your fingers along the spines. Dickens, Thackeray, Trollope, Kipling. The names are familiar, the classics of English literature, selected to appeal to the educated passengers who travel in first class. You pull out a volume at random, something by Conrad, perhaps appropriate for an ocean crossing, and flip through its pages, not really reading but enjoying the feel of the paper, the smell of ink and binding glue. The lounge has several doors leading to other spaces, and through one of them you can see a sliver of another room, the smoking room, perhaps, or a reading alcove. The ship is full of such interconnected spaces, each one designed for a specific purpose, each one part of a larger whole that functions like a small city, providing everything the passengers need during their days at sea. You replace the book on the shelf and continue your exploration, moving toward the door that leads to the next room. The lamp beside you flickers once, then steadies, casting its golden light across the carpet and the furniture and the empty chairs that wait for morning. The ship sways gently, and the night continues its peaceful passage. In this quiet lounge, surrounded by soft chairs and silence, you can imagine sinking into your own comfortable place. Through the door, you find the smoking room. It is a smaller space than the lounge, more intimate and enclosed, designed specifically for the gentlemen of the ship to enjoy their tobacco in peace. The ceiling is lower here, perhaps 9 or 10 feet, creating a sense of coziness that the grander public rooms lack. The walls are paneled in dark mahogany, richly carved with geometric patterns and classical motifs, and the overall effect is one of masculine comfort, a gentleman's club transported to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The air carries a different character here, even hours after the last cigar was extinguished. You can detect the lingering scent of tobacco smoke, rich and complex, overlaid with notes of leather and aged whiskey and the faint sweetness of port wine. These are the smells of evening relaxation, of conversations held in low voices, of newspapers rustled and opinions exchanged. The room remembers the men who gathered here earlier, and their presence lingers in the very fabric of the space. Leather armchairs are arranged throughout the room, deep and comfortable, their surfaces worn smooth by years of use. The leather is the color of chestnuts, rich and warm, and it gleams softly in the lamplight. Each chair is positioned to allow conversation with neighbors while also permitting solitude for those who prefer it. A careful balance of sociability and privacy that characterizes the best club rooms. Small tables stand beside each chair, their surfaces marked with the rings of countless glasses, the burns of carelessly placed cigars. These marks are not signs of neglect but of use, evidence that this room has served its purpose well, that generations of travelers have found comfort and companionship within its walls. The tables hold ashtrays, crystal, mostly, heavy and substantial, and small lamps with green glass shades that cast pools of emerald light onto the leather and wood. The green-shaded lamps are a distinctive feature of the smoking room, different from the amber glow of the lounge and corridors. The green light is softer, easier on the eyes, designed for reading newspapers and playing cards without strain. It creates an atmosphere that is simultaneously restful and alert, perfect for the kind of quiet activity that gentlemen enjoy after dinner. You sink into one of the leather chairs, feeling the cool surface warm quickly beneath you. The leather creaks softly as you settle, adjusting to your weight, conforming to your shape. The chair is deeper than you expected, and you find yourself almost swallowed by its embrace, your head resting against the high back, your arms supported by the curved rests. A newspaper lies on the table beside you, folded to reveal the front page of a London daily from several days ago. The most recent news available, brought aboard at the last port of call. The headlines speak of politics and commerce, of events in distant capitals that seem impossibly remote from this room, this ship, this moment. You pick up the paper and glance at the columns of text, but the words blur together, and you set it aside, content to simply rest in the chair and absorb the atmosphere. The smoking room opens through a wide archway into the ship's library. You can see the shelves from where you sit, rows upon rows of books reaching from floor to ceiling, their spines forming a mosaic of colors and textures. The library is smaller than you might expect, perhaps 15 feet square, but it is efficiently designed, every inch of wall space devoted to books, with a rolling ladder that allows access to the upper shelves. You rise from the leather chair and pass through the archway into the library proper. The smell of books is immediate and welcome, paper and binding glue, leather covers and aged ink. It is the smell of knowledge, of stories, of countless hours spent in the company of words. The library is quiet in a different way than the other rooms, a hush that seems to demand reverence, as if the books themselves are sleeping and must not be disturbed. The shelves are organized by category, with small brass plates indicating the sections: fiction, history, travel, biography, reference. The fiction section is the largest, filled with the popular novels of the day, adventure stories and romances, mysteries and tales of the supernatural. You recognize many of the authors: Conan Doyle and H.G. Wells, Rudyard Kipling and Joseph Conrad, Henry James and Edith Wharton. These are the writers who capture the imagination of the reading public, whose works are discussed in drawing rooms and debated in the pages of literary journals. You run your finger along the spines, feeling the different textures of cloth and leather bindings. Some of the books are new, their covers crisp and unmarked. Others show signs of repeated reading, their spines cracked, their pages softened by many hands. A few volumes have been borrowed so often that their titles are barely legible, worn away by the friction of being pulled from and returned to the shelf. A reading table occupies the center of the library, surrounded by straight-backed chairs. The table is covered with green baize, like a billiard table, providing a soft surface for books and writing materials. A lamp stands at each corner, their green shades matching those in the smoking room, casting overlapping pools of light that illuminate the entire surface. You select a volume from the fiction section, something by Conrad, as you considered earlier, or perhaps a collection of short stories that can be sampled in small doses. The book feels good in your hands, its weight substantial, its cover smooth. You carry it to one of the chairs and sit down, opening it to a random page. The words swim before your eyes, not because you cannot read them, but because you are not really trying. It is enough to hold the book, to feel its presence, to imagine the stories contained within its covers. The act of reading can wait for another time. For now, the book is simply a companion, a prop in the theater of the night. The library is connected to the smoking room by more than just the archway. They share an atmosphere, a purpose, a clientele. Both are spaces for quiet contemplation, for the solitary pleasures of the mind. During the day, gentlemen move between them freely, reading in the library, smoking in the adjoining room, conversing with friends, or sitting alone with their thoughts. Now, in the empty hours, the two rooms merge into a single space, a sanctuary of leather and books and green-shaded light. You sit for a long while, the book open on your lap, your eyes moving over the pages without truly reading. The ship sways gently, the engines hum, and the silence of the library wraps around you like a blanket. Time passes differently here, measured not by clocks but by the turning of pages, the shifting of light, the slow rhythm of breath and thought. When you finally rise, the book still in your hand, you feel a sense of reluctance to leave. The library offers a particular kind of peace, a refuge from the world that few other spaces can match. But there are other rooms to explore, other corners of the ship to discover, and the night is still young. You return the book to its place on the shelf, sliding it carefully between its neighbors, leaving no trace of your passage. The library remains as you found it, quiet and waiting, ready to welcome the next reader who seeks its shelter. The scent of old books and the soft glow of reading lamps invite you to let your own thoughts grow quiet. You leave the library and make your way to the dining saloon. The transition is immediate and striking. Where the library was intimate and enclosed, the dining saloon is vast and grand, one of the largest public spaces on the ship. The room stretches perhaps 100 feet from end to end, its ceiling rising to a height of 15 or 20 feet, supported by columns wrapped in carved wood and decorated with gilt. Crystal chandeliers hang at intervals overhead, their pendants dark at this hour but still catching the reflected light from the wall sconces, scattering tiny points of brightness across the white tablecloths below. The tables are arranged in long rows, stretching the length of the room, with smaller tables along the walls for parties who prefer more privacy. Each table is set for breakfast, the white linen tablecloth spread with geometric precision, the silverware arranged in the exact positions prescribed by etiquette and tradition. The napkins are folded into elaborate shapes, fans or crowns or bishop's mitres, standing upright on the service plates like small sculptures of fabric. You walk slowly between the tables, your slippers silent on the carpet that covers the floor between the rows. The carpet is patterned with floral motifs in soft colors, roses and lilies, forget-me-nots and ivy, creating a garden underfoot that contrasts with the formality of the table settings above. The overall effect is one of controlled abundance, of luxury restrained by good taste, of wealth expressed through quality rather than ostentation. The silverware gleams in the low light, each piece polished to a mirror finish. You pause beside one of the tables and examine the place setting. A dinner fork and a salad fork on the left, a dinner knife and a butter knife on the right, a soup spoon above the plate, a bread plate to the upper left with its own small knife. The arrangement is precise and consistent, repeated exactly at every place setting in the room, evidence of the training and discipline of the stewards who prepared it. The crystal is equally impressive. Water glasses and wine glasses arranged at the upper right of each setting, their stems slender, their bowls catching and reflecting the light. The glasses ring faintly when you tap one with your fingernail, a clear, pure tone that speaks of quality and craftsmanship. These are not ordinary drinking vessels but works of art, created specifically for this ship, stamped with the company's crest on their bases. At the far end of the room, a raised platform holds the captain's table, a place of honor reserved for the most distinguished passengers on each crossing. The captain himself presides at dinner, selecting his guests from among the first-class travelers, engaging them in conversation about their journeys and their lives. To be invited to the captain's table is a mark of status, a recognition that you are someone of importance, someone worth knowing. The captain's table is set like all the others, but with additional flourishes. An extra wine glass, perhaps, or a more elaborate centerpiece. A large arrangement of fresh flowers occupies the middle of the table, roses and ferns and baby's breath, their colors vivid against the white linen. The flowers are replaced daily, even in the middle of the ocean, maintained in the ship's florist shop and arranged by skilled hands. You do not approach the captain's table. It feels too intimate, too reserved, even in the empty room. but you admire it from a distance, imagining the conversations that take place there, the laughter and the stories, the connections formed between strangers who find themselves seated together by chance or design. The walls of the dining saloon are paneled in light-colored wood, perhaps oak or ash, carved with neoclassical motifs that echo those in the lounge. Paintings hang at intervals, depicting maritime scenes, ships under sail, lighthouses standing guard over rocky shores, calm harbors filled with fishing boats. The paintings are framed in gilt, their surfaces protected by glass, and they create a visual continuity with the nautical theme of the ship itself. The windows along one wall are covered with heavy curtains, blocking out the darkness of the night. During the day, these windows admit natural light, and passengers can dine while watching the sea pass by, the endless blue horizon a backdrop to their meals. Now, the curtains are drawn, creating a sense of enclosure, of warmth, of protection from the vastness outside. You pause beside one of the smaller tables along the wall, pulling out a chair and sitting down. The chair is upholstered in the same fabric as the curtains, a rich brocade in deep red and gold, and it is surprisingly comfortable for a dining chair. You rest your arms on the table, feeling the smooth linen beneath your fingers, and look out across the empty room. The chandeliers hang dark overhead, their crystals still and silent. In a few hours they will blaze with light, illuminating the room as passengers stream in for breakfast, their voices filling the space with conversation and laughter. Stewards will move between the tables, carrying trays of food and pitchers of coffee, responding to requests with trained efficiency. The room will come alive, transformed from this quiet emptiness into a bustling, vibrant space. But for now, the dining saloon belongs to you alone. The tables are set, the glasses polished, the silverware arranged. Everything is ready, waiting for the passengers who will arrive with the morning. The room is a stage, prepared for a performance that has not yet begun, and you are the only audience. You rise from the chair and push it back into place, aligning it carefully with its neighbors. The dining saloon requires order, precision, attention to detail, and you do not wish to disturb its perfection. You take one last look around the room, admiring the chandeliers and the paintings, the white tablecloths and the gleaming silverware, then turn and make your way toward the exit. The ship sways gently beneath you, a reminder that you are not on solid ground but floating on the surface of the ocean, carried forward by engines and steam. The dining saloon, for all its grandeur, is part of a vessel in motion, a temporary structure that exists only for the duration of the crossing. In a few days, you will disembark and the room will be prepared for the next group of passengers. The tables reset, the flowers replaced, the cycle beginning again. But tonight, in the quiet hours before dawn, the dining saloon is timeless, suspended between crossings, between meals, between the past and the future. It waits with patience and grace, ready to serve, ready to welcome, ready to provide. The tables are set, the ship is steady, and the night stretches peacefully ahead. You find a door leading outside and step onto the promenade deck. The change is immediate and dramatic. The air strikes your face with a cold freshness that takes your breath away, sharp with salt and the clean scent of the open sea. The wind is gentle tonight, barely more than a breeze, but it carries the sound of water, the constant splash and hiss of waves against the hull, the distant rush of the ship's wake trailing behind, the occasional slap of a larger swell against the steel plates below. The deck stretches before you, a broad wooden walkway that runs the length of the ship, perhaps 300 feet from bow to stern. During the day, this is one of the most popular spaces on the vessel, filled with passengers taking the air, walking arm in arm, reclining in deck chairs, watching the endless sea pass by. Now, in the depths of the night, it is utterly deserted, the deck chairs folded and stacked against the wall, the windows of the public rooms dark and shuttered. You walk slowly along the deck, your dressing gown wrapped tightly around you against the chill. The wooden planks are smooth beneath your slippers, worn by years of footsteps, the grain raised slightly by constant exposure to salt spray and weather. The planks are laid in long parallel lines, running the length of the deck, their joints sealed with tar that has softened and hardened through countless cycles of heat and cold. The railing runs along the outer edge of the deck, a sturdy barrier of wood and iron that separates you from the sea beyond. You approach it slowly, placing your hands on the top rail, feeling the cold metal beneath your palms. The railing is wet with spray, beaded with droplets that catch the faint light from the ship's lamps, and you can feel the vibration of the engines transmitted through the structure. To your left, the ocean stretches endlessly, black and featureless beneath the dark sky. There is no moon tonight, or it has set, and the darkness is nearly absolute. You cannot see the water, only sense its presence, vast and deep and utterly indifferent to the ship that passes over its surface. Occasionally, a wave catches the light from the ship's portholes, a brief flash of silver that appears and vanishes almost before you can register it. To your right, the ship rises in tiers of decks and windows, its superstructure reaching toward the invisible sky. The funnels tower overhead, massive cylinders of steel painted in the company's colors, their tops trailing faint wisps of steam and smoke that are quickly torn away by the wind. The funnels are the most visible feature of the ship from a distance, the signature that identifies the vessel to observers on shore or on passing ships. The deck beneath your feet sways gently, a slow and rhythmic motion that you have almost ceased to notice after hours aboard. The ship rolls perhaps 3 or 4 degrees to each side, a gentle oscillation that creates a feeling of being rocked, cradled, held by the sea itself. The motion is not unsettling but soothing, a constant reminder that you are moving, progressing, traveling toward your destination. You stop at the railing and lean against it, looking up at the sky. The stars are magnificent tonight, more brilliant than you have ever seen them on land. Without the light pollution of cities, without the glow of street lamps and windows, the sky is ablaze with points of light, thousands of them, millions perhaps, scattered across the darkness like diamonds on black velvet. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens, a river of stars, a pale band of light that arches from horizon to horizon. You can pick out constellations that you barely remember from childhood lessons. Orion the Hunter with his belt of 3 bright stars, the Big Dipper pointing toward the North Star, Cassiopeia, the queen on her throne. The stars seem close enough to touch, close enough to pluck from the sky like fruit from a tree. They are ancient lights, their photons traveling for years or centuries or millennia to reach your eyes, and you are seeing them as they were in the distant past, not as they are now. The ship feels very small beneath such a sky. A single vessel, a speck of light and warmth and life, crossing an ocean that stretches for thousands of miles in every direction. The Atlantic alone covers millions of square miles, and beyond it lie other oceans, other continents, other worlds. You are a passenger on a planet hurtling through space, aboard a ship sailing through the night, a tiny consciousness in an infinite universe. And yet you do not feel afraid or insignificant. The ship is solid beneath your feet, its engines humming with steady power. The crew is vigilant, the course is set, and the night is calm. You are part of something larger than yourself, the community of travelers, the tradition of seafaring, the human impulse to explore and discover. The stars have watched over voyagers for thousands of years, and tonight they watch over you. The wind freshens slightly, tugging at the hem of your dressing gown, ruffling your hair. You pull the robe tighter around you, but you do not retreat inside. The cold is invigorating, sharpening your senses, making you feel alive and present in a way that the warm interior spaces cannot match. The deck sways beneath you, the stars blaze overhead, and you breathe deeply of the salt air, filling your lungs with the essence of the sea. You walk further along the deck, past the stacked chairs and the darkened windows, past doors that lead to other sections of the ship. The promenade extends the full length of the vessel, and you could walk from bow to stern and back again, an endless loop of wooden planks and iron railings. Some passengers do exactly that during the day, making circuit after circuit for exercise, counting their laps, competing informally with one another. Now you are alone, the only living soul on this stretch of deck. Your footsteps are muffled by the sound of the wind and the water, and you move like a ghost through the darkness, a solitary figure wrapped in wool and shadow. The ship carries you forward, indifferent to your presence, focused on its purpose, its destination, its schedule. You pause at a point where the deck widens slightly, creating a small observation area with a bench built into the railing. The bench is wet with spray, and you do not sit, but you lean against it, looking out at the darkness. The horizon is invisible, the sea and the sky merging into a single black expanse. Only the stars provide reference, fixed points of light that tell you which way is up, which way is down. The cold is beginning to seep into your bones now, despite the warmth of your dressing gown. Your fingers are numb on the railing, and your cheeks sting with the wind and the spray. But you linger a moment longer, reluctant to surrender the vastness of the night for the enclosed spaces of the ship. The promenade deck offers something that the lounges and libraries cannot: a direct connection to the elements, to the sea and the sky, to the raw power of nature that surrounds the fragile vessel. Finally, you turn and make your way back toward the door you came through. The warmth of the interior beckons, promising shelter and comfort, and you are ready to return. But you carry the night with you, the stars, the wind, the endless dark sea, and they will remain in your memory long after you have left this ship and returned to the solid ground of home. The cool air and the gentle sway of the deck beneath your feet can help you breathe a little slower, a little deeper. You climb higher, ascending exterior stairs that lead toward the bridge. The stairs are narrow and steep, designed for crew rather than passengers, with metal treads that ring faintly beneath your slippers. You grip the handrails firmly, steadying yourself against the motion of the ship, and climb slowly, one step at a time. The wind is stronger here, away from the sheltered promenade, and it tugs at your clothing with insistent fingers. The bridge is located at the highest point of the ship's superstructure, a windowed enclosure that provides a commanding view of the sea in every direction. During the day, it is a busy place, officers coming and going, telegraphs clattering, orders being given and acknowledged. At night, it is quieter but no less vigilant. A skeleton crew maintaining watch, ensuring that the ship stays on course, that any hazards are spotted and avoided. You approach the bridge with a sense of reverence, aware that you are entering a space not normally open to passengers. The door is closed but not locked, and through the windows you can see the soft glow of instruments, the silhouettes of officers at their stations. You do not enter. That would be presumptuous, perhaps even forbidden. But you pause outside, observing through the glass. The bridge is longer than you expected, stretching across the full width of the ship, perhaps 40 or 50 feet. Windows line the forward wall, providing an unobstructed view of the bow and the sea beyond, though at this hour there is nothing to see but darkness. The glass is thick, designed to withstand the worst weather, and it is slightly distorted, creating faint ripples in the view. Inside, the officers move quietly about their duties. The helmsman stands at the wheel, a large wooden circle fitted with brass handles, his hands resting lightly on the spokes as he maintains the ship's heading. He does not grip the wheel tightly. The ship is on a steady course. The sea is calm, and only minor adjustments are needed. But his attention is constant, his eyes moving between the compass and the windows, alert to any change. The officer of the watch stands nearby, consulting a chart spread on a table beneath a hooded lamp. The chart shows the North Atlantic, the shipping lanes marked with dotted lines, the ship's position indicated by a small X that is updated regularly throughout the voyage. The officer makes a note in the logbook, recording the time and the position, the weather conditions and the sea state, the routine observations that document the crossing. Other instruments line the walls of the bridge: barometers and thermometers, inclinometers and anemometers, devices for measuring every aspect of the ship's environment. A telegraph connects the bridge to the engine room below, allowing the officers to communicate speed changes to the engineers. At night, the telegraph is rarely used. The ship maintains a steady speed, adjusted only for safety, but it stands ready, its brass handles polished and gleaming. Through the windows, you can see the bow of the ship, a dark shape against the darker sea. The bow rises and falls gently with the swell, cutting through the water with a steady rhythm. Navigation lights burn at the masthead, green on the starboard side, red on the port, and a bright white light shines from the foremast, visible for miles in every direction. These lights identify the ship to other vessels, indicating its size and direction of travel. Somewhere above, in the crow's nest, a lookout scans the horizon with binoculars, searching for lights or obstacles that might pose a danger. The lookout is the ship's first line of defense against collision, and the duty is taken seriously despite the empty darkness that stretches in every direction. Even on the calmest night in the most traveled waters, vigilance is maintained. You watch the officers for several minutes, admiring their calm professionalism, their quiet competence. These are men trained for this work, experienced in the ways of the sea, capable of handling any situation that might arise. They speak in low voices, exchanging brief comments, but for the most part they work in silence, their attention focused on the instruments and the windows and the endless night beyond. The bridge is the brain of the ship, the center of command and control. From here, every aspect of the voyage is directed: the speed, the course, the safety of passengers and crew. The captain may be asleep in his cabin, but his officers carry out his orders, maintaining the standards he has set, ensuring that the crossing proceeds without incident. You step back from the window, not wanting to disturb the officers with your presence. They have not noticed you. Their attention is directed outward toward the sea, and you prefer to remain invisible, a silent observer of their work. The bridge is their domain, and you are merely a guest, a passenger who has wandered further than most. As you descend the stairs, you feel a sense of gratitude for these men, for their skill and dedication. They stand watch through the night so that you can sleep in safety, so that the ship can travel through the darkness without fear. The crossing may seem routine, uneventful, even boring at times, but it is made possible by the constant vigilance of the crew, their attention never wavering, their commitment never in doubt. The crew keeps watch so that you can rest, and the ship moves steadily through the calm night. You descend now into the heart of the ship. The stairs leading below are different from those above, narrower, steeper, more utilitarian in design. The decorative touches that characterize the passenger areas are absent here, replaced by functionality and efficiency. The walls are painted white or gray. The floors are bare metal, and the lighting comes from bare electric bulbs protected by wire cages. This is the working part of the ship, the spaces where the crew lives and labors, hidden from the passengers who enjoy the comforts above. As you descend, the temperature rises noticeably. The air becomes warmer, drier, carrying the distinct smells of coal smoke and machine oil, of hot metal and steam. You are approaching the engine rooms, the source of the ship's power, the beating heart that drives the great vessel forward through the night. You pass through a heavy watertight door, its brass fittings green with age, and find yourself on a catwalk overlooking the engine room. The space below is vast and cathedral-like, stretching perhaps 100 feet in length and 3 or 4 decks in height. Machinery fills every available space, cylinders and pistons, crankshafts and connecting rods, gauges and valves and pipes of every description. The noise is tremendous, not deafening but pervasive, a constant roar that fills the space and drowns out all other sounds. The engines are reciprocating machines, massive assemblies of steel and iron that convert the energy of steam into the motion of the propeller shafts. They are painted in dark colors, black and green and red, and they gleam with oil, their surfaces maintained with meticulous care by the engineers who tend them. Each stroke of the pistons produces a deep, resonant thump that you can feel in your chest, a rhythm that underlies all other sounds on the ship. Workers move through the engine room, checking gauges, adjusting valves, making notes in logbooks. They wear overalls and caps, their faces streaked with oil and sweat, their hands blackened by contact with the machinery. They communicate with hand signals and shouted words, their voices barely audible above the roar of the engines. Their work is hard and constant, a 24-hour operation that never ceases as long as the ship is at sea. Beyond the engine room, you can glimpse the boiler rooms, where the steam that powers the engines is generated. The boilers are massive cylindrical vessels, perhaps 30 feet long and 15 feet in diameter, arranged in rows that stretch into the distance. Furnaces burn beneath each boiler, fed by stokers who shovel coal from the bunkers into the flames, a process that continues around the clock, consuming hundreds of tons of fuel on each crossing. The heat from the boiler rooms is intense, radiating through the ship's structure like the warmth of a giant oven. The stokers work in temperatures that would be unbearable to most people, their bodies glistening with sweat, their movements rhythmic and economical. They are among the hardest working men on the ship, and their labor is essential to the voyage. Without the steam they produce, the engines would stop, and the ship would drift helplessly on the open sea. You watch from the catwalk, fascinated by the complexity and scale of the machinery. The engine room is a world unto itself, a self-contained system that converts coal into motion, fire into power. It is a triumph of engineering, a demonstration of human ingenuity and determination, and it operates with remarkable efficiency, day after day, crossing after crossing, carrying thousands of passengers and countless tons of cargo across the Atlantic. The chief engineer stands on a platform overlooking the machinery, his uniform jacket unbuttoned in the heat, a pocket watch in his hand. He is responsible for everything in this space: the engines, the boilers, the pumps, the generators, the entire mechanical infrastructure that keeps the ship running. He has spent decades learning his trade, rising through the ranks from junior assistant to chief, and he knows every valve and gauge as intimately as a doctor knows the human body. The engines maintain a steady rhythm, neither accelerating nor slowing, their speed set by the bridge and maintained by the engineers. The vibration that you feel throughout the ship originates here, transmitted through the steel hull and the wooden decks, a constant reminder that the vessel is alive, is moving, is carrying you toward your destination. It is the pulse of the ship, and it never stops. You linger on the catwalk for several minutes, watching the dance of machinery and men, absorbing the heat and the noise and the smell of oil and smoke. The engine room is not a comfortable place, not a space designed for passengers, but it has its own kind of beauty, the beauty of function, of purpose, of work done well. The engineers and stokers take pride in their labor, and their pride is evident in the smooth operation of the machinery, the gleaming surfaces of the equipment, the orderly arrangement of the space. When you finally turn to leave, climbing back up the stairs toward the passenger decks, you carry with you a new appreciation for the ship and its crew. The luxury of the lounges and cabins is made possible by the labor of these men, working in heat and noise and darkness, while the passengers sleep in comfort above. The ship is a partnership between those who travel and those who make travel possible, and both are essential to the crossing. Deep in the ship, the engines keep their steady rhythm, and you can let that rhythm carry you towards sleep. You make your way to the lower decks, where the steerage passengers are accommodated. The corridors here are narrower than those in first class, the ceilings lower, the decorations simpler. This is not the domain of velvet armchairs and crystal chandeliers, but of practical necessity, of efficiency and economy. The passengers who travel in steerage have paid less for their tickets, and their accommodations reflect the difference. Adequate but not luxurious, clean but not elegant. The walls are painted in light colors, cream or pale green, to make the spaces seem larger and brighter than they are. The floors are covered with linoleum rather than carpet, easier to clean and maintain. Electric lights burn at intervals, providing adequate illumination, but the fixtures are plain, lacking the ornate brass housings of the upper decks. You pass through a doorway and enter one of the dormitories where steerage passengers sleep. The room is long and narrow, perhaps 60 feet by 20, filled with rows of metal bunks stacked 2 or 3 high. Each bunk has a thin mattress, a pillow, and a woolen blanket, the linens clean and serviceable if not luxurious. The passengers sleep in their clothes, their belongings stored in bags beneath their beds or in small lockers along the walls. The room is dark, lit only by a few low lamps at either end, and the air is close and warm, filled with the soft sounds of sleep. You can hear the rustle of blankets, the murmur of dreams, the occasional cough or sigh. Dozens of people sleep here, perhaps 100 or more, sharing the space with a level of intimacy that would be unthinkable in the private cabins above. You walk quietly between the rows of bunks, careful not to disturb anyone. A child sleeps with a cloth doll clutched in her arms, her face peaceful, her breathing slow and even. An elderly woman lies on her side, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders, her eyes closed, her lips moving slightly as if in prayer. A young couple occupies adjacent bunks, their hands stretched across the gap between them, fingers intertwined even in sleep. These are the immigrants, the workers, the seekers of new lives and new opportunities. They have left behind everything they knew, homes, families, languages, customs, and they are traveling toward an uncertain future in a strange land. For many of them, this crossing represents the culmination of years of saving, of planning, of dreaming. The ship is carrying them not just across the ocean, but across a threshold, from one life to another. The steerage passengers come from every corner of Europe, Ireland and Italy, Poland and Russia, Germany and Scandinavia. They speak different languages, practice different religions, hold different customs. But here in the shared dormitory, they are united by their common experience, their common journey, their common hope. They sleep side by side, strangers who will become neighbors, immigrants who will become Americans. The conditions in steerage are not harsh, despite the reputation that such accommodations have acquired. The bunks are clean, the food is adequate, and the ship's crew treats the passengers with reasonable courtesy. But there is no privacy here, no escape from the presence of others. Every cough, every conversation, every movement is shared by all, and the crossing requires a level of patience and tolerance that first-class passengers never need to develop. You pause at the end of the dormitory, looking back at the rows of sleeping figures. The lamp at your end casts a soft glow, enough to see by but not enough to disturb the sleepers. The ship sways gently, rocking the bunks like cradles, and the engine hum provides a constant lullaby. These passengers, for all the difficulties of their journey, are resting peacefully, trusting in the ship to carry them safely to their destination. There is a dignity in steerage that is sometimes overlooked by those who travel in greater comfort. The passengers here have made sacrifices, have taken risks, have committed themselves to an uncertain future with courage and determination. They are not wealthy, not privileged, not powerful, but they are part of the great human story of migration and hope that has shaped the modern world. You turn and make your way back toward the upper decks, leaving the steerage quarters behind. The passengers continue to sleep, unaware of your passage, undisturbed by your presence. The ship carries them forward through the night, toward the dawn, toward the new world that awaits. In the quiet bunks of steerage, whole families rest together, and you can join them in that peace. You find your way to the ship's galley, following your nose toward the scent of baking bread. Even at this late hour, or perhaps this early hour, the galley is not entirely still. The bakers have already begun their work, preparing the bread and pastries that will be served at breakfast. The ovens are lit, their doors glowing with warmth, and the air is thick with the scent of yeast and flour and butter, mingling with the savory smells of stock simmering and meats roasting slowly for the meals to come. The galley is a long, narrow space, stretching perhaps 50 feet along one side of the ship, lined with stoves and ovens and preparation tables. Copper pots and pans hang from racks overhead, their surfaces polished to a warm gleam. Knives and ladles and other utensils are arranged in neat rows, each tool in its designated place, ready for the cooks who will arrive in a few hours to begin the serious work of feeding the ship's passengers and crew. The bakers work in a section of the galley devoted to their craft, separated from the main cooking area by a half wall and a set of swinging doors. They wear white jackets and tall hats, their aprons dusted with flour, their hands moving with practiced efficiency. One baker shapes loaves of bread, forming the dough into long ovals and placing them in rows on a large tray. Another rolls out pastry dough, cutting it into circles and filling each one with sweetened fruit or custard. The bread rising in the ovens fills the galley with a warmth that is both physical and emotional. There is something deeply comforting about the smell of baking bread, something primal and reassuring that speaks to the most basic human needs. The bakers are not just preparing food but creating comfort, producing the simple pleasure that will greet the passengers when they wake. You watch from the doorway, not wanting to intrude but fascinated by the process. The bakers acknowledge your presence with brief nods, accustomed to curious passengers who wander into the working spaces of the ship. They do not stop their work, their movements continuous and rhythmic, the product of years of training and experience. A large pot simmers on one of the stoves, releasing fragrant steam into the air. You recognize the smell of chicken stock, a foundation for soups and sauces that will be served at lunch and dinner. The stock has been cooking for hours, extracting flavor from bones and vegetables, and it will continue to simmer until the head chef arrives to incorporate it into the day's menu. Trays of pastries cool on a rack near the ovens, croissants and Danish, fruit tarts and cream puffs, an array of sweets that would tempt any appetite. The pastries are golden brown, their surfaces glossy with egg wash, their shapes perfect and uniform. In a few hours, they will be arranged on tiered stands in the dining saloon, offered to passengers who may never think about the hands that created them. The galley staff works in shifts around the clock, preparing meals for nearly 2,000 passengers and crew. The logistics are staggering. Thousands of pounds of meat and fish, hundreds of dozens of eggs, tons of vegetables and fruits, all stored in refrigerated compartments and brought out as needed. The head chef oversees an operation that would rival any fine hotel, producing multiple courses at each meal, accommodating special requests and dietary restrictions, maintaining standards of quality that justify the high prices charged for passage. The bakers are the first to arrive, their work beginning in the small hours of the morning so that fresh bread will be ready when the passengers wake. They work in quiet concentration, their conversations limited to the necessary exchanges of their craft. The heat of the ovens keeps them warm, and the rhythm of their work keeps them focused. You step back from the doorway, leaving the bakers to their labor. The warmth of the galley follows you into the corridor, a reminder of the comfort that awaits when morning comes. The ship provides everything its passengers need: food and shelter, entertainment and rest. And the galley is the heart of that provision, a space where raw ingredients are transformed into meals that nourish and satisfy. The warmth of the galley and the promise of fresh bread remind you that comfort is near. You climb toward the top of the superstructure, seeking the wireless room. The wireless room is a small cabin located near the officers' quarters, equipped with the latest Marconi apparatus for sending and receiving messages across the ocean. It is one of the marvels of modern technology, a device that allows the ship to communicate with other vessels and with stations on shore, bridging the vast emptiness of the Atlantic with invisible waves that carry the dots and dashes of Morse code. The door to the wireless room is closed, but through the window, you can see the operator at his station. He wears a pair of headphones over his ears, the earpieces pressed tight against his head, and his fingers rest lightly on the telegraph key. The equipment before him is a complex array of dials and switches, coils and condensers, the components of a system that few people fully understand, but that has revolutionized maritime communication. The wireless operator is one of two employed by the ship, working in shifts to maintain continuous coverage throughout the crossing. His primary duty is to handle commercial messages, telegrams sent by passengers to friends and family on shore, business communications for the merchants and financiers who travel first class. but he is also responsible for receiving and transmitting navigational information, weather reports, and in emergencies, distress signals from ships in need of assistance. You watch through the window as the operator taps out a message, his fingers moving in the rhythmic pattern of Morse code. Each press of the key produces a spark that jumps across a gap in the apparatus, generating a radio wave that travels outward at the speed of light. Somewhere out there, perhaps hundreds of miles away, another operator is listening, receiving the message, perhaps preparing to send a reply. The wireless room is small and crowded with equipment, but the operator seems comfortable in the confined space. A cup of cold tea sits at his elbow, and a logbook lies open on the desk, its pages filled with neat handwriting, a record of every message sent and received. The operator works alone, his attention focused on the task at hand, his ears attuned to the faint signals that arrive through the static and noise of the ether. The technology of wireless telegraphy is still new, developed only in the past decade, and it has transformed the experience of ocean travel. Before Marconi, ships at sea were truly isolated, cut off from the world until they reached port. Now, a passenger can send a message home from the middle of the Atlantic and receive a reply within hours. The ocean is no longer a barrier but a bridge, and the wireless room is the nexus of that connection. You step back from the window, leaving the operator to his work. The signals continue to cross the dark Atlantic, linking ship to ship, ship to shore, weaving a web of communication that spans the ocean. You are part of that web, even though you have not sent or received a message, simply by virtue of being aboard a vessel equipped with wireless. The connection exists, ready to be used if needed, a reassurance that you are not truly alone. Across the dark Atlantic, quiet signals pass from ship to ship, and you are part of that vast, connected silence. As you walk through the quiet corridors of the ship, your thoughts turn to the youngest travelers aboard this vessel, the children who are making this crossing with their families, carried across the Atlantic toward new lives, or returning home from adventures abroad. In the first-class cabins, children sleep in small berths arranged beside those of their parents, or in adjoining rooms connected by doors that stand slightly ajar, so that a mother might hear if her child calls out in the night. The berths are fitted with safety rails to prevent a sleepy child from tumbling out during rough weather, though tonight the sea is calm, and the rails serve merely as a gentle boundary between the child and the wider world. A little girl sleeps with her cloth doll clutched tightly against her chest, the doll's painted face pressed against the child's nightgown. The doll has button eyes and yarn hair, made perhaps by a grandmother or purchased from a shop in the city the family has left behind. It is a simple toy, but to the child, it is a companion, a piece of home carried across the ocean, a comfort in the unfamiliar environment of the ship. The child's breathing is slow and even, her face relaxed in the deep, untroubled sleep that comes so easily to the young. In the berth beside her, a boy of perhaps 7 or 8 has fallen asleep with a picture book open across his chest. The book shows illustrations of ships and trains and other marvels of the modern age, and the boy has been studying them, perhaps imagining himself at the helm of this very vessel, or driving a locomotive across some distant continent. His hand rests on the open pages, his fingers curled loosely around the spine, and his lips are slightly parted as he breathes the slow, steady rhythm of peaceful sleep. The ship rocks gently, a motion so subtle that even the lightest sleepers barely notice it. For the children, this gentle movement is a comfort rather than a disturbance, a lullaby built into the very structure of the vessel. They have adapted quickly to life at sea, as children do, accepting the new rhythms and routines with the flexibility that adults often lack. The dining saloon, the promenade deck, the public rooms, these have become their playground, explored with the curiosity and energy that mark childhood in every era. In the steerage quarters, children sleep in the bunks alongside their parents and siblings, families crowded together in spaces that would seem cramped by the standards of the first class, but that are nonetheless warm and safe. A baby sleeps in a makeshift cradle, a drawer from a dresser lined with blankets and wedged securely between the bunks. The baby's face is round and peaceful, cheeks flushed with the warmth of sleep, tiny hands curled into fists beside its head. The mother sleeps nearby, one arm extended toward the cradle, ready to respond if the baby stirs. Older children sleep tangled together, brothers and sisters sharing a single bunk, their limbs intertwined in the easy intimacy of family. They have traveled far already, these children, leaving behind villages and towns and the only homes they have ever known. Ahead lies a new country, a new language, a new life. But tonight, none of that matters. Tonight, there is only sleep, only the gentle motion of the ship, only the warmth of family and the safety of the vessel carrying them forward. The children carry with them the objects that matter most: a favorite toy, a book of fairy tales, a photograph of grandparents who could not make the journey. These treasures are tucked into bags and pockets, held close during the day and placed carefully beside the pillow at night. They are anchors to the past, connections to the life left behind, and they will be carried into the future, growing worn and precious with the passage of years. And then there are the animals, the creatures who share this crossing with the human passengers, each one making its own journey across the sea. In the cargo hold, dogs wait in specially designed kennels, separated from the chaos and activity of the passenger decks. The kennels are large and clean, fitted with straw bedding and water dishes, and a member of the crew is assigned to care for the animals during the voyage, feeding them, walking them on the deck during specified hours, ensuring their comfort and well-being. Tonight, the dogs are quiet, most of them asleep, curled in the corners of their kennels, their noses tucked under their paws. A terrier lies on its side, legs twitching occasionally as it dreams of chasing rabbits across fields that exist only in memory. A spaniel sits upright, ears pricked, listening to the sounds of the ship, the creak of the hull, the hum of the engines, the distant splash of water, sounds that are strange and new but that have become, over the days of the crossing, a kind of familiar music. A large hound sleeps deeply, its breathing slow and heavy, utterly relaxed in the dark warmth of the kennel. Some passengers have received special permission to keep small pets in their cabins, and in a first-class stateroom, a cat dozes on the foot of the bed, its fur warm against its owner's feet. The cat has adapted quickly to shipboard life, finding sunny spots on the cabin floor during the day and warm nooks at night. It is indifferent to the ocean outside the porthole, the endless water that stretches in every direction. What matters to the cat is warmth, food, and the presence of its human companion. A canary sleeps in a covered cage in another cabin, its feathers fluffed against the cool air, its head tucked under its wing. The cage is suspended from a hook designed to swing with the motion of the ship, keeping the bird's perch steady even when the sea is rough. The owner has covered the cage with a cloth to simulate night and encourage sleep, and the bird is quiet, dreaming perhaps of flight, of open skies, of the gardens and parks it knew before the journey began. These small creatures, like the children, are travelers too, carried across the ocean by forces they do not understand, toward destinations they cannot imagine. They rely on their human companions for care and protection, and in return they offer companionship, the simple comfort of a warm body, a wagging tail, a gentle purr. They are part of the community of the ship, members of the floating world that makes its way across the Atlantic, and they too will arrive safely, God willing, at the journey's end. The ship moves steadily through the night, carrying its cargo of sleepers, children and adults, humans and animals, all of them resting, all of them trusting the vessel to bring them safely through the darkness. The engines hum their constant rhythm, and the sea stretches endlessly in every direction, and the night wraps around the ship like a blanket, holding all its passengers in the embrace of sleep. In a cabin on B deck, a young boy clutches a wooden horse, its paint worn from years of play. In the kennel below, a golden retriever sighs in its sleep, legs moving as it dreams. In a covered cage, a finch rests on its perch. And somewhere in steerage, a baby breathes softly in its drawer cradle, watched over by parents who have traveled thousands of miles and have thousands more to go. The little ones sleep soundly, and you can let yourself feel that same easy, uncomplicated rest. On some of the great ocean liners of this era, a tradition has developed for those passengers who find themselves wakeful in the small hours. The midnight buffet, a spread of light refreshments offered in one of the smaller salons for anyone who wishes a bite to eat before returning to bed. You discover this offering quite by accident, following the faint sound of voices and the clink of china through a door you had not previously noticed. The room beyond is small and intimate, much less formal than the main dining saloon, furnished with a few tables and chairs arranged around a central buffet table that has been laden with an array of foods designed to satisfy without overwhelming. The lighting is soft, provided by a handful of lamps turned low, creating an atmosphere of quiet conviviality that feels almost conspiratorial, as if those gathered here share a secret that the sleeping majority of passengers will never know. The windows are draped with heavy curtains, blocking out the darkness of the sea, and the room feels enclosed and warm, a pocket of comfort in the vast emptiness of the night. The buffet table itself is a work of art, covered with a crisp white cloth and arranged with the same care and attention that characterizes every meal on the ship. Silver trays hold sandwiches cut into triangles and rectangles, their crusts removed, their fillings varied: cucumber and cream cheese, smoked salmon, ham and mustard, egg and cress. The bread is fresh and soft, sliced thin, and the sandwiches are arranged in overlapping rows that create a pattern pleasing to the eye. Beside the sandwiches, a selection of pastries and cakes occupies a tiered stand, each layer holding a different delicacy. There are small tarts filled with fruit preserves, their edges crimped with fork tines. There are petit fours decorated with delicate icing in pale colors, pink and white and green, each one a miniature work of confectionery art. There are slices of sponge cake and fruit cake, cookies dusted with powdered sugar, and chocolates wrapped in foil that glints in the lamplight. A large silver urn holds hot tea, and beside it, a matching urn contains coffee for those who prefer it. Cups and saucers are stacked nearby, along with small plates and napkins, cream and sugar, lemon slices arranged in a fan pattern on a small dish. Everything is laid out for self-service, allowing passengers to help themselves without the formality of waiters and menus. A few passengers are already present, scattered at the small tables around the room. They are dressed in their night clothes, dressing gowns over nightgowns and pajamas, slippers on their feet, hair slightly disheveled from sleep. There is something endearing about seeing these travelers in their informal attire, stripped of the social armor they wear during the day, relaxed and unguarded in the quiet of the night. A middle-aged woman sits alone at a corner table, a cup of tea before her, a plate holding the remains of a sandwich and a small cake. She looks up as you enter and nods a small greeting, then returns her attention to the book she has brought with her, reading by the soft light of a nearby lamp. She seems entirely content, at peace with her sleeplessness, enjoying the solitude and the simple pleasures of the buffet. At another table, a couple sits together, speaking in low voices, their heads close. They share a plate of sandwiches, each reaching for different selections, their movements easy and familiar. Perhaps they are honeymooners, unable to sleep for the excitement of their new life together. Perhaps they are old marrieds, comfortable in each other's company, finding pleasure in this small adventure. Whatever their story, they seem happy, their quiet conversation adding to the warm atmosphere of the room. You approach the buffet table and select a few items for yourself. A cucumber sandwich, a small tart, a chocolate wrapped in golden foil. You pour a cup of tea, adding milk and a spoonful of sugar, stirring it gently before carrying your plate to an empty table near the window. The china is fine and thin, the teacup fitting perfectly in your hand, the saucer balanced on your knee as you settle into the chair. The sandwich is delicious, the bread soft, the cucumber crisp and cool, the cream cheese smooth and slightly tangy. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, letting the simple pleasure of food at an unexpected hour wash over you. The tart is equally satisfying, its pastry flaky and buttery, its filling sweet and fruity, melting on your tongue. The tea is hot and fragrant, the perfect temperature, warming you from the inside out. Around you, the small sounds of the room create a gentle backdrop. The clink of a spoon against a saucer, the rustle of a page being turned, the murmur of the couple's conversation, the faint hum of the engines that underlies everything. The room feels separate from the rest of the ship, a hidden pocket of warmth and comfort that exists outside the normal rules and schedules of the voyage. You unwrap the chocolate slowly, enjoying the anticipation, and pop it into your mouth. It is rich and sweet, melting quickly, coating your tongue with flavor. You close your eyes for a moment, focusing entirely on the sensation, the pure pleasure of chocolate eaten in the middle of the night, when no one is watching and nothing is expected. The clock on the wall shows the time, nearly 1:30, and you realize that you have been awake for more than an hour now, wandering the ship, exploring its quiet spaces. But you do not feel tired, not exactly. You feel peaceful, content, satisfied in a way that has nothing to do with sleep and everything to do with the experience of this moment, this place, this unexpected gift of the midnight buffet. A steward moves quietly through the room, replenishing the trays, replacing empty dishes, ensuring that everything remains as perfect as it was when the buffet opened. He nods to you as he passes, a small acknowledgement of your presence, then continues his work, unobtrusive and efficient. The ship takes care of its passengers at every hour, anticipating needs, providing comforts, making the crossing as pleasant as possible. You finish your tea and set the cup aside, leaning back in your chair, letting the warmth of the room and the satisfaction of the food settle into your body. There is no need to hurry, no schedule to keep, no obligations until morning. You can stay here as long as you like, enjoying the quiet company of fellow night owls, or you can continue your exploration of the ship. The choice is yours. A cup of tea, a small cake, and the hush of the night. Simple comforts that ask nothing of you but to enjoy. Leaving the warmth of the buffet room, you find yourself drawn toward a part of the ship you have not yet explored. a quieter section, away from the public lounges and dining rooms, where passengers might find solitude and space for reflection. Many of the great ocean liners of this era include a small chapel among their amenities, a recognition that passengers on a long voyage might feel the need for spiritual comfort, a place to pray or simply to sit in silence, removed from the bustle and activity of shipboard life. You have heard that such a space exists aboard this vessel, and now you set out to find it. The corridors in this section of the ship are narrower and less ornate than those in the public areas, the walls painted rather than paneled, the carpet thinner and more utilitarian. But they are still clean and well-maintained, lit by electric lamps that cast a steady glow. You pass doors marked with numbers and letters, indicating cabins and storage rooms and spaces whose purposes you can only guess at. At the end of a corridor, you find a door that stands slightly ajar, and through the gap, you can see the flicker of candlelight. You push the door open gently and step inside. The chapel is small, perhaps no more than 20 feet long and 10 feet wide, with a low ceiling and walls of polished wood. Wooden pews are arranged in 2 rows, facing a simple altar at the far end of the room. The altar is covered with a white cloth, and on it stand 2 brass candlesticks, each holding a lit candle whose flames dance gently with the motion of the ship. A brass cross stands between the candles, catching their light and glowing softly. The space is non-denominational, designed to serve passengers of various faiths, Christians of different traditions, Jews, Muslims, those of other religions, and those of no religion at all. There are no stained glass windows, no statues of saints, no icons or images that might alienate anyone seeking comfort here. The decor is simple and universal, the atmosphere one of peace and welcome. The pews are made of the same polished wood as the walls, their seats worn smooth by the bodies of passengers on countless previous voyages. Hymnals and prayer books are stacked in small racks at the end of each pew, their covers worn, their pages soft with use. Cushions provide some comfort for the hard wooden seats, their fabric a deep maroon that complements the warm tones of the wood. You slip into one of the pews and sit quietly, letting your eyes adjust to the candlelight. The chapel is empty save for yourself, the only sound the creak of the ship's timbers and the distant hum of the engines. The candles flicker, their flames bending this way and that with the subtle movements of the vessel, casting dancing shadows on the walls and ceiling. The air in the chapel is cool and still, carrying a faint scent of beeswax from the candles and polish from the wood. It is a clean, simple smell, free of the complex fragrances of the public rooms, the tobacco and perfume and cooking odors that fill the lounges and dining saloons. Here, there is only the purity of wood and wax and the salt air that permeates every corner of the ship. You close your eyes and let the silence wash over you. This is a place for thought, for reflection, for the kind of deep inner quiet that is difficult to find in the busy world of the ship. Here, you can set down whatever burdens you have been carrying, worries about the journey, concerns about what lies ahead, memories of what you have left behind. The chapel asks nothing of you but to be present, to breathe, to rest. The candlelight glows red through your closed eyelids, a warm, comforting presence. You can feel the gentle sway of the ship, the constant motion that has become so familiar over the days of the crossing. The pew beneath you is solid and steady, supporting your weight, holding you in place. You are safe here, in this small, quiet space in the middle of the vast Atlantic. Perhaps you offer a prayer for your loved ones, for the voyage, for the world. Perhaps you simply sit, letting your mind empty, allowing the peace of the space to fill you. Perhaps you think of nothing at all, existing only in this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. The chapel accommodates all of these possibilities, welcoming each person who enters without judgment or expectation. The ship moves steadily through the night, carrying you and all the other passengers toward your destination. The engines hum, the propellers turn, the miles pass one by one. And in this small chapel, the candles burn, their flames steady and bright, a pair of constant lights in the darkness of the voyage. You open your eyes and look around the chapel once more. The candlelight plays across the polished wood, creating patterns of light and shadow that shift and change with every movement of the ship. The cross on the altar gleams softly, a symbol of faith that has comforted travelers for centuries, across oceans and continents, in times of joy and sorrow. A small table near the door holds a guest book, its pages filled with the names and messages of passengers who have visited the chapel on previous voyages. Some have written prayers, others have recorded their thoughts and feelings. Still others have simply signed their names, leaving a trace of their presence. You could add your own entry if you wished, a record of this moment, this midnight visit to the ship's quiet sanctuary. But for now, it is enough simply to be here, to sit in the candlelight, to feel the peace that fills this space. The world outside continues on its way. The ship moves, the sea stretches, the stars wheel overhead. But in the chapel, time seems to pause, to hold its breath, to wait for whatever you might need. You rise from the pew, genuflecting slightly out of instinct or habit, and move toward the door. The candles continue to burn behind you, their flames steady and unwavering. As you step back into the corridor, you carry with you the peace of the chapel, a gift that will remain with you through the rest of the night and into the days to come. In this quiet space, you can set down any thoughts you have been carrying and simply rest. The peace of the chapel lingers with you as you make your way back through the corridors of the ship. But you find yourself drawn once again to the outside, to the promenade deck, to the vast night sky that stretches overhead. You push open the heavy door that leads to the deck and step outside into the cool night air. The change is immediate and dramatic. The enclosed, climate-controlled world of the ship's interior giving way to the open expanse of the Atlantic, the wind and the stars, and the endless black water that surrounds the vessel on every side. The deck is empty now, the chairs folded and stacked. The passengers who walked here earlier in the evening long since retired to their cabins. You have this space to yourself, this ribbon of wooden planking that runs along the side of the ship, offering unobstructed views of the sea and sky. You move to the railing and grip the cold metal, leaning out slightly to look upward. The stars are magnificent. In the cities and towns you have left behind, the night sky is often obscured by the glow of streetlights and house lamps, the illumination of civilization that blocks out all but the brightest celestial objects. But here, in the middle of the Atlantic, far from any land, the sky is as dark as it has been for millennia, and the stars blaze with a brilliance that takes your breath away. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a river of light, a band of countless stars so distant that their individual lights merge into a luminous cloud. You can trace its path from horizon to horizon, arching overhead in a great curve that seems to embrace the entire sky. This is our galaxy, you know, the vast spiral of stars in which our sun is but a single point, lost among billions of others. And seeing it like this, with your own eyes, unfiltered by atmosphere or artificial light, fills you with a sense of wonder that is almost overwhelming. You try to identify the constellations, those patterns of stars that humans have traced and named for thousands of years. There is Orion, the hunter, his belt of 3 bright stars unmistakable even to the casual observer. There is the Big Dipper, its cup-shaped form pointing the way to Polaris, the North Star, which has guided sailors across these waters for centuries. There is Cassiopeia, the Queen, her W shape marking one corner of the northern sky. The stars are ancient, their light traveling for millions of years to reach your eyes tonight. The photons striking your retinas now left their sources long before humans walked the earth, before the continents had drifted into their current positions, before life as we know it had evolved. You are seeing the past, looking back in time, witnessing light that began its journey when the universe was younger and the cosmos was different in ways we can barely imagine. And yet, for all their ancientness, the stars are also immediate, present, real. They are here with you tonight, shining down on this ship and this sea, keeping watch as they have watched over travelers since the first humans looked up in wonder and began to ask questions about the nature of the universe. The stars do not change, or rather, they change so slowly that a human lifetime is nothing to them. A blink, a heartbeat, a single breath in the long life of a celestial body. The ship moves steadily beneath your feet, its engines driving it forward at a pace that seems both swift and glacial, depending on your perspective. Compared to the distances between the stars, the ship is barely moving at all, a mote of dust drifting across an infinite void. But compared to the generations of travelers who crossed this ocean under sail, the ship is a marvel of speed and efficiency, covering in days what once took weeks or months. You are suspended between these two realities, the cosmic and the human, the eternal and the immediate. The ship carries you forward through the night, and the stars wheel slowly overhead, and the two movements are connected in ways that you cannot fully understand but can nonetheless feel, a sense of being part of something larger than yourself, a journey that extends beyond this voyage to encompass all of human history and all of cosmic time. A shooting star streaks across the sky, a brief bright line that flares and fades in less than a second. You catch your breath, startled and delighted, your eyes tracking the path of the meteor even after it has vanished. Such moments are gifts, unexpected blessings that arrive without warning and disappear just as quickly, leaving behind only the memory of light and motion. The wind is gentle tonight, barely more than a breeze, but it carries the salt tang of the sea and the chill of the open water. You pull your dressing gown tighter around you, grateful for its warmth, and continue to gaze upward. The stars seem to pulse and shimmer, their light refracted by the Earth's atmosphere, creating the twinkling effect that has captivated observers since the dawn of human consciousness. You think of all the people who have stood on the decks of ships and looked up at these same stars. The ancient Phoenicians and Greeks, the Viking explorers, the Renaissance navigators who charted new routes across unknown seas. They saw these same patterns, these same constellations, though they understood them differently, fitting them into cosmologies and mythologies that have since been replaced by our modern scientific understanding. And yet, the wonder remains unchanged by knowledge, undiminished by explanation. The ship's bell sounds in the distance, two clear notes that mark the passage of another hour. The sound drifts across the deck and out over the water, swallowed by the vastness of the night. You have been standing here longer than you realized, lost in contemplation, your eyes fixed on the stars. But there is no hurry, no schedule, no obligation. The night belongs to you, and you can spend it however you wish. A seabird wheels overhead, visible for a moment as a dark shape against the stars, then gone, disappearing into the night. You are far from land, but not so far that birds cannot reach you, and their presence is a reminder that the ship is not entirely alone on this vast ocean. Somewhere ahead, land awaits, the coast of America, the harbors and cities, and the new life that lies beyond. But for now, there is only the sea and the sky and the stars that watch over both. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the cold, clean air of the Atlantic night. The ship rises and falls beneath you, a gentle motion that you barely notice anymore, so accustomed have you become to the rhythm of the voyage. The stars continue their slow wheel overhead, and the Milky Way stretches from horizon to horizon, and the universe unfolds in all its mystery and beauty, waiting to be explored by those who have the eyes to see it. The stars have watched over travelers for centuries, and tonight they watch over you. The night has been long, but it is not endless. As you stand at the railing, gazing out over the dark water, you begin to notice a change in the quality of the sky. The blackness that has dominated since midnight is softening, lightening almost imperceptibly, as if the darkness itself is thinning, becoming translucent. The stars are still visible, but they seem less bright than they were an hour ago, their light fading as a new light begins to emerge from behind the curve of the earth. Dawn is approaching. The change is so gradual that at first you are not certain you are seeing it. The eastern horizon, which has been indistinguishable from the rest of the sky, begins to take on a faint glow, a barely perceptible lightening that suggests rather than reveals. The line where the sea meets the sky, invisible in the darkness, starts to emerge as a thin ribbon of paleness, separating the black water from the black air. You watch transfixed as the process continues. The glow spreads slowly, creeping up from the horizon, pushing the darkness back degree by degree. The color of the sky changes, shifting from black to the deepest blue, then to a blue that is lighter still, tinged with purple and the faintest hint of pink. The stars begin to wink out, one by one, their light overwhelmed by the growing radiance of the approaching sun. The sea, which has been a featureless expanse of black, begins to reveal itself. You can see the surface now, the gentle swells that roll toward the ship, the occasional cap of white foam that marks where a wave has crested and broken. The water is gray in this light, neither black nor blue, but something in between, a neutral tone that will shift and change as the sun climbs higher. The ship continues its steady progress, plowing through the swells with mechanical precision. The wake trails behind, a path of disturbed water that stretches back toward the darkness of the west. Ahead, the horizon brightens, and you can see the first suggestion of clouds, thin wisps of vapor high in the atmosphere, catching the early light and glowing with colors that are difficult to name. Pink and orange and gold. These are the colors of dawn, familiar from countless mornings on land, but somehow more vivid and pure here in the middle of the ocean, where there are no buildings or trees to block the view, no smoke or haze to filter the light. The colors spread across the sky like a watercolor painting, blending and shifting as you watch, creating patterns that exist for only a few moments before changing into something new. The air is cold, colder than it was during the night, as if the approaching sun has drawn the last of the warmth from the atmosphere before replacing it with its own. You shiver slightly, pulling your dressing gown tighter, but you do not retreat inside. This is a moment worth witnessing, a daily miracle that happens whether or not anyone is watching, but that feels more precious because you are here to see it. Seabirds appear, more of them now circling overhead or skimming low over the water in search of fish. Their cries are sharp and clear in the still air, a contrast to the silence of the night. The birds know that dawn is coming, and they greet it with activity and noise, ready to begin their daily hunt for food. The rim of the sun appears on the horizon, a sliver of brilliant gold that is almost too bright to look at directly. You squint against the light, watching as the sliver grows, expanding into a semicircle, then a full circle, the sun rising steadily as the earth turns beneath it. The light it casts is warm and welcoming, banishing the last of the night's chill, flooding the deck with a radiance that makes everything it touches seem new and fresh. The sea changes color as the sun rises, shifting from gray to blue to a deep, rich azure that seems to glow from within. The waves catch the light and sparkle, each crest a tiny mirror reflecting the sun's rays. The ship's hull, which has been dark and indistinct, now gleams with fresh paint and polished brass, the details that were hidden by darkness revealed in the clarity of morning light. Other passengers begin to appear on the deck, emerging from the interior of the ship to witness the dawn. They are dressed in various states of morning attire, some in full-day clothes, ready for breakfast, others still in dressing gowns and slippers, like yourself. They move to the railing and stand quietly, watching the sun climb higher, sharing the experience without feeling the need to speak. The ship's crew moves purposefully about their duties, the night watch handing over to the day shift, the routines of the vessel continuing uninterrupted by the change in light. Stewards begin to prepare the public rooms for the day's activities, and in the galley, the breakfast preparations intensify, the smell of coffee and bacon beginning to drift through the corridors. You stand at the railing for a few minutes more, watching as the sun rises fully above the horizon, its light now bright and strong, the sky a pale blue scattered with the remnants of the dawn clouds. The night is over, the journey continues, and a new day has begun. But for you, the night has been more than a pause between days. It has been an experience, a journey within a journey, an exploration of the ship and of yourself. The quiet corridors, the empty lounges, the sleeping passengers, the stars overhead, all of these have been your companions through the dark hours, and they have given you something that the daylight cannot provide. A sense of peace, of solitude, of connection to the deeper rhythms of life and time. You can return to your cabin now, lie down in your berth and let sleep take you at last. Or you can stay here, watching the day unfold, joining the other passengers in the rituals of mourning. The choice is yours, and there is no wrong answer. The ship will carry you forward either way, steady and sure, toward the destination that awaits. As dawn approaches, you can choose to follow the light or simply let your eyes close and rest a little longer. The night has passed and the ship sails on. You have walked the quiet corridors, your slippers silent on the thick carpet, passing closed cabin doors behind which your fellow passengers slept peacefully. You have descended the grand staircase, running your hand along the polished banister, admiring the craftsmanship of those who built this floating palace. You have sat in the empty lounges, surrounded by velvet chairs and potted palms, listening to the silence that fills these spaces in the small hours. You have watched the night watch on the bridge, the officers standing their careful vigil, keeping the ship on course through the darkness. You have descended to the engine rooms, feeling the heat and power of the machinery that drives the vessel forward, the rhythmic pulse that underlies every other sound on the ship. You have visited the sleeping passengers in steerage, the families huddled together in their bunks, dreaming of the new lives that await them. You have partaken of the midnight buffet, sampling sandwiches and cakes and tea, joining the small community of sleepless travelers who gather in the quiet hours for conversation and companionship. You have found the ship's chapel, sitting in the candlelit silence, letting the peace of that small space settle into your heart. You have stood on the promenade deck, gazing up at the stars, feeling the vastness of the universe and the smallness of the ship beneath you. And now, as the sun rises over the eastern horizon, you have watched the dawn transform the world, turning the Black Sea to gray and then to blue, bringing light and warmth to the ship and its passengers. Throughout this journey, the ship has carried you safely, its engines humming, its crew keeping watch, its structure solid and reassuring beneath your feet. There have been no storms, no emergencies, no moments of fear or doubt. Only the peaceful passage of a great vessel through a calm night, carrying hundreds of souls toward their destinations. You do not need to remember all the details of what you have seen and experienced. The corridors and lounges, the engine rooms and chapels, the stars and the dawn. These images may blur together in your memory, becoming a single impression of peace and wonder. That is as it should be. The night was not about accumulating facts or checking items off a list. It was about being present, about letting the ship and the sea and the sky work their quiet magic on your spirit. The morning is here now, and with it come the activities of the day. Breakfast in the dining saloon, walks on the deck, conversations in the lounge, all the routines and rituals that fill the waking hours. You can join them when you are ready, or you can return to your cabin and sleep, catching up on the rest you have missed. The ship will continue its journey, mile after mile, hour after hour, carrying you closer to your destination. And whatever lies ahead, new cities, new people, new experiences, you will face it rested and renewed, carrying with you the peace of this night at sea. Thank you for walking with us through the quiet hours. Sleep well when you are ready. The night has passed gently. The ship sails on, and you are welcome to stay as long as you like.